On this episode of Tom Talks, I am really excited to share with you a very special car. And a car that has been one of our best kept secrets over the last couple of years. And that is this beautiful and very special Aston Martin DB4GT Zagato. Why is this car so special? Well, let's talk about just some bullet points. There were only 19 DB4GT Zagatos ever produced. They are deemed the most beautiful GT car of all time. And of those 19 cars that were produced, only 8 of them were configured in left-hand drive, which today they are the most sought after, as the world is a much bigger place for a left-hand drive market. Other unique selling points about this particular car is it's the only example that was ever produced with open headlamps. So all of the other DB4GT Zagatos you'll see with what I think remind me of frog eye headlamps. They're very big plexiglass covers, where this particular car was ordered new from a gentleman who lived in Milan. Hence you will see today the Milan period plates that is fitted to the car. That gentleman's name was Antonio Mochietti. Now, Mr. Mochietti was a huge fan of Lancias in period. This actual car is painted in a Lancia colour, which was its original colour from new. And Mr. Mochietti, he wanted an open headlamp configuration. He was the only client of the 19 that requested open headlamps. And when you look at the car today, I think it has a real 250 short wheelbase look to it. He also requested Lancia style bumpers. We've got a great photograph of his wife in period sprawled across the bonnet of one of their Lancias, a very similar looking car. He had a great love affair for Zagato cars and for Lancias in particular. And when he ordered his GT Zagato, he took some of that love affair, being the colour and the Lancia style bumpers. He also, this is one of only 3 cars that has this type of air scoop on the bonnet. It also has an extra air vent at the rear of the bonnet, which we assume because of the heat in Italy, that's a reason why he requested it. Other unique selling points about this car is it's one of only 2 examples that were fitted from new with brass frames around the windows. So he put real careful consideration into the specification of his car, unlike a lot of people that ordered Zagatos new, because they ordered them to go racing. You know, these are cars that were campaigned in period. They were the lighter version of the DB4 GTs. They were cars that the DB4 GTs weren't particularly competitive against the Ferraris. And Aston Martin said, how do we take our phenomenal GT car and make it really competitive? And they went to the Italian, I would say coach builder, but clother of cars, which was Zagato. And Zagato built, constructed, designed what is now deemed as one of the most beautiful bodies on a GT car of all time. This car remained in Italy. It actually passed from Antonio Mochietti to his brother after a few years, and then they sold it to another very highly respected Italian car collecting family with a surname Dubini, and they would keep the car until 1972, at which time it was sold to the Littlewoods heir, Nigel Moores, in the northwest of England. He would go on to keep the car for several years. It would pass through the hands of Frank Sittner. Today you will know all of these Sittner dealerships up and down the country. Frank was an avid historic racer and a purveyor of fine automobiles. And then the most recent owner bought the car in the 1990s. And when we acquired the car some 2.5 years ago, we decided to embark on a world-class restoration. What we wanted to do was have the finest restored, have the reference DB4 GT Zagato, the reference restoration. Who did we entrust the car to? Well, our first port of call was noted Aston Martin historian Stephen Archer, who we work very closely with. We chatted with Stephen and decided together on who we thought was the very best people to restore this car. And that is a company in the UK called Spraytech. Spraytech are based not far from Newport Pagnell. They are the best Aston Martin restorers. The body was entrusted to Body Lines for any metal repairs that it needed. And then Spraytech dealt with the disassembly, they dealt with the paintwork, they dealt with the reassembly, the mechanics. You only send mechanics to one place if you want a proper Aston Martin doing, and that is RS Williams. So we entrusted the mechanics to RS Williams. Actually, at this point, I think it's really good to be able to look inside the engine bay and just look at that. The quality of the restoration of this car is in its correct 3.7 litre configuration. You get a lot of people today with Zagatos. They increase the capacity to 4.7 litres, but we like to keep it period correct. Just the finest detail. Now, the body on these cars are so paper thin. You know, compare it to a normal GT, you can just kind of stand next to it and feel how much less it weighs. So you have to be very careful leaning over these cars, pressing on the paintwork, because Spraytech have told me that they will probably shoot us if anything happens to the car after all of their blood, sweat and tears for the last 2.5 years. The research that goes into a restoration of this quality, the time spent, you know, scouring the earth to make sure that the car is absolutely restored to its period correct state. You know, the wheels on the car, we make sure that it's got the correct Barani wire wheels fitted to the car. The glass that's in the car is its original glass. That's an interesting thing, actually. We try and keep as much originality as possible. So when the paintwork is stripped to bare metal, it's so easy, and a lot of restorers and a lot of people who send the cars for restoration just go, yeah, put a new body on it. That metal is a bit fatigued. We don't want to put new metal unless we absolutely need to install new metal. So it costs way more money to carry out a restoration with the remit that we give to our chosen restorers, because it's so much easier just to fabricate new bodies. But we asked to try and preserve as much originality as possible, so we managed to save a lot of the original body on this car. The glass, you know, people ask and go, should we just get new glass? And we say, no. That's the glass the car was born with. You see here all the original Securate stampings, etchings that are in the glass. And even though the glass is scratched a little bit, for me, that gives the car a soul. That's the patina that over the last 63 years, the car has basically gained. And you know, we carefully got a specialist polisher in to try and remove as many of the scratches as possible, but otherwise we want to retain as many original items as possible. So all of the chrome, when we took it off the car, you know, there was the panels on these Zagatos, a lot of them were numbered. They had body number stampings, and all of the body number stampings were there when we stripped the car, and we sent those parts off to be refinished and refitted those original parts. Coming to the rear of the car, you know, I really want you to take a good look at this. How beautiful is the rear end of this car? You see these twin fuel caps, and you know, you look at the exhaust pipes in the rear end and how beautifully well proportioned, and the quite bulbous rear wings, you know, the curvature on them. It really is a stunning looking car. You know, if you actually took this center section away, even again, I think it has so much similarity of a 250 short wheelbase, although these cars are certainly not inferior to a 250 short wheelbase. You know, they have always, since the day they were new, they've always been more valuable than a normal steel-bodied short wheelbase. And that has a lot to do with its rarity and a lot to do with its beauty. Also a fantastic car to drive. We went to great research to get the exact correct period finish for the dash. You know, the interior itself is pretty basic. You have 2 bucket style leather trimmed seats, you have your Wilton carpet, and all of this interior. We took months to ensure that the trim was finished to not just period correct style, but in Pebble Beach standard, 100-point perfection. And I have to say, everybody that has been involved on this restoration project, from Stephen Archer to the wonderful Adrian George and his team at Spray Tech, to the guys at Body Lines, and to Neil Thompson and his team at RS Williams. Everyone has spent so much time, and this is a car that we really have tried to keep a secret to the world. This will be the first time that we share this car coming for sale on this channel today. It's going to be launched for sale in the next few weeks. We have some selected clients in mind that we are going to offer the opportunity to in advance of it being presented for sale. And it's a car that we've really become very connected to. We spent so long with its research. Our own Emma Gales has travelled to Italy to carry out research with the first owners and with Zagato themselves. This is how involved we get with a lot of cars that we purchase, a lot of cars that we acquire for stock. And this is one particular car that we really have grown very fond of. And it's a car that we're delighted to share with you today. And we look forward to seeing how we get on with it.